I find it fascinating when we talk about Kundalini, the amount of people that get it wrong, that are mistaking so many different things for Kundalini. Sorry, I have to keep looking down because the path I'm walking on is a little bit rocky. So we have crisis of consciousness. We have life crises. We have big events in our life that cause reactions within our body. These are not Kundalini. We also have things like Kundalini Activation, where the body is moving in these demos. Well, Kundalini Activation is not an original thing. And people moving in energy sessions, I've had people moving in Reiki sessions for decades. There are Epstein's work, not that Epstein, another Epstein, Donny Epstein. You have reconnection. People have been moving in these energy systems for decades. You have Taoist energy systems, which people have been moving for centuries in these practices. Just if we work, part of the thing that's very important that I use within my trainings with my students is learning about the dantians and working the dantians. And just with the dantians, people can start moving and have energy flowing through the body. This is not Kundalini energy. It's just pranic energy. All of these is just pranic energy. Now we also have tantric energy, the energy of our essence, our Jing, our Ojas, the energy of, some people call it sexual energy, but it's not really sexual energy. It's the energy that underlies that. It is the creative energy. It's literally the energy that causes life within us. That's why it's found in the reproductive organs. There are so many different types of energy that are not Kundalini, and everyone, they see this amazing video where people are moving and they think and they're told, well, it's Kundalini, and so therefore it's Kundalini. None of these things are Kundalini. So what is Kundalini energy? Seriously. Kundalini energy, Shakti, not Kundalini Awakening, Shakti energy, because a Kundalini Awakening has two things within it. It has the energy rising to meet Shiva, the consciousness, and then it is the connection of these two parts. So it's much like we live with the understanding of time. But the truth is, time is only relevant to space, space-time, the theory of relativity. So we have this energy, and until we connect it to consciousness, until we connect and realize that time is warped by space, we do not have an awakening. So just that energy, whichever energy it is, suddenly rising in our spine, I can feel it, it makes me move, or not even within my spine, within my body. Okay, that's energy moving in your body. Not Kundalini. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Because pranic energy can move in the spine. Tantric energy can move in the spine. There are all these energies that can flow. Now, we could say, if we're very specific, if we look at the Taoist techniques, we could say, well, prana or chi doesn't actually flow in the spine. It flows just in front of the spine in the microcosmic orbit. Fair enough. We can say the tantric energy doesn't flow in the spine. It actually flows just behind the spine, as many people feel it when they learn how to move their tantric energy. But when that energy is flowing fully and largely, it feels like it's in the spine. So you can understand that people misconceive these things. If we look at the first talkings of Kundalini in the Tantra Sutras, oh, it's a mystical ancient text, it must be right. Well, actually, no, it's wrong. Because the first instance, the first mention of Kundalini energy is actually talking about energy coming from your sexual organs, rising up your spine and creating sensations of bliss. That is the Jing. That is not Kundalini. Later texts that are written go more into detail about what Kundalini is. Kundalini is the rising of energy from the root. Nowhere else. I've heard people say Kundalini energy rises from the earth. It rises through our legs. No, it doesn't. That's prana. That's life force energy. If it arises from our sexual organs, that is tantric energy. If we trace these things, we can find out. Now, if you look at things like Kundalini activation, many of the people or practitioners or facilitators who do this, they have no idea whether they're moving prana or tantra. Many of them are actually moving both without realizing they have no control and no knowledge of these things. And they just say, well, it's Kundalini. But Kundalini is an energy, as I said, Shakti. And we can look at this from a Hindu point of view. We can look at this from a Christian point of view. If we look at the Christian Gnostic texts, where it talks about the demiurge and Sophia. Sophia is Shakti. Read the texts. Read the Nag Hammadi library books. It explains it. And the demiurge is our mind, is our brain. It is the thing that traps Sophia. So it's not just a Hindu thing. It's in every culture around the world if we just learn to read it and we learn to spot what it's talking about. And when prana rises through the spine, it can be very healing. Sorry, I'm trying to walk around these little paths. It's quite rocky and I'm getting places. I'm not really looking where I'm going and I can't really go any further if I'm talking to you on the camera as well. So prana, when it moves through the spine, we know what it is because it flows not only in the spine, it opens up the body, it releases tensions, it releases traumas, it makes people move. Anyone who does Reiki, this is another subject. Most practitioners of Reiki or certified Reiki masters have this very slight, minimal flow of energy. And they say, Reiki is supposed to be soft. No. Unfortunately, Reiki has been dumbed down because people don't actually know how powerful it is. It's very unfortunate, but these things happen. And of course, this is the same thing that's going to be happening and will happen with Kundalini. It is getting dumbed down by things like Kundalini activation. So prana moves through the body and it can release these things. And don't get me wrong, it's a very powerful healing energy. Some people think, you're very much anti-Kundalini activation. Okay, Kundalini activation has its problems because a lot of practitioners will push their clients too far because it's all about the experience. It's all about the roller coaster ride, getting them to move when they're not ready for it. That's a whole nother kettle of fish. Sorry, I'm walking on a very precarious rocky bit here, trying to get to another path. This is what happens when you live on a volcanic island. Where are we? Here we are, back to a path. It's still quite difficult to walk on, as you can probably see behind me. So we have this pranic energy that it is very, very powerful and it is amazing and it does help us heal. Because Kundalini Shakti is not a healing energy. You need to heal. You need to go through the process. Whether we work with de-armoring, whether we work with psychological techniques of shadow work, or even CBT can work. To go through and start releasing the mind. If we think about it, in the modern age, in the West, yoga, meditation, mantras, staring at a candle, all these techniques in the West basically do one thing. It doesn't matter which one you take, but they do one thing. The thing that they do is they try to get the practitioner out of their mind. In the West, that's what they do. The problem is, meditation, it doesn't actually teach you how to get out of their mind. It says, well, just practice and eventually you'll get there. A lot of yoga doesn't teach this. You learn the asanas whilst you're learning the asanas, and you're learning the pranayamas, and you're learning. Okay, you do get out of mind because you have to concentrate. But then once you've learned it and you've got the muscle memory and you've got used to the pranayama, same with breath work, then you can still be stuck in the mind once again. And so you can't go any further. It's about getting out of the mind. All of them. So prana is very powerful in healing. And we need to go through that process, whichever process we choose to use, the one that we find best. Once we have gone through that, and this again, why am I trainings? They are a year long. It's 8 months of work. Building, practicing, releasing, getting ready. Those that do this go a long way. Those that just look at the information and don't do the practices, guess what? They don't get nearly as far. And then when they don't get as far, they're a bit like, oh, well, I thought this is like, if you don't do the work, as Tantra says, you have to put in the work. Once we have healed, once we have regulated and controlled and balanced, not grounded, balanced, prana within ourselves, perhaps the tantric energies, those ojas, that Jing, that essence within ourselves, then we stand a chance of actually connecting Kundalini. And if this energy rises up and we get to a state and we have these sensations of bliss or these orgasms, many people then suddenly say, oh, I've had a Kundalini Awakening. No, you haven't. That isn't a Kundalini Awakening. That's just the Jing, the Ojas, being built, rising up. That doesn't take long. I teach people to do this in a session or two. That's easy. To have energy orgasms is easy. Just a couple of sessions of practice. And you get to these sensations of bliss and awe and wonder. And again, the amazing, powerful experiences. I'm not trying to belittle them. But that is not a Kundalini Awakening. You'll know when you've had a Kundalini Awakening. Because once you've gone through the process, once grace has descended upon you, they love to make it sound marvelous and mystical. But you will start to have secondary effects. These secondary effects, we could call them siddhis or psychic abilities. Now, are the psychic abilities the same in everyone? Do they activate in the same order? No, they don't. What are they? Well, some of them we could call telepathy, okay? But we could also describe it as such a strong empathic connection to someone that we can start knowing what they're going to say before they say it. Even to the point we start getting visions, if we're highly visual people, of seeing memories that are not our own. Much like if we are doing an energy healing session on someone, we can start to feel these blocks or pains or densities, if you're doing it empathically, in your body that you know are not your own because they are your clients. Now, don't get me wrong, because I know some people are going to say, oh, you should never pull someone else's energy into yours. I'm not talking about pulling someone else's energy into yours. I'm talking about an empathic connection. It's a very different. People that don't understand the difference perhaps should not be teaching. Once we've got to these points and we raise this energy, this Kundalini Shakti, it goes beyond bliss. It goes to a point that, quite frankly, I don't discuss openly what's going to happen in those places. Why? Because of the problem of power of suggestion. Because the mind is very powerful. And much like in many Kundalini activation sessions that they will do a demo beforehand. Because if the facilitator doesn't do a demo, not as many people move. But if they do a demo, more people move. Because it is the power of suggestion. Yes, we have to eliminate these things. And so the things that go through, so I've told you one. For example, the telepathy, but I haven't told you how it happens. I haven't told you how to experience it exactly. I've just told you the basics. But when we go through an awakening path, there are steps that everyone goes through. Now, yes, I've read the books too, the ones that say, oh, it feels as though your soul gets sucked out the top of your head. Now, this can happen if it's spontaneous. But a spontaneous rising, not awakening, is not the best way to go about things. This is where the danger lies. We want a smooth transition. If we've done the work properly, then it will be smooth. It will be calm. And let's face it, that feels as though the consciousness or the soul is being sucked out of the body is basically the same feeling as when you astral project for the first time. Now, some people just find themselves outside their body, but others actually feel that sucking feeling. And yes, obviously, I understand people that read books need to glorify it and make the wow factor, just as those demo videos, to make it more fantastical and more amazing to sell more books. But the path should be smooth. And when this Shakti, this true Kundalini Shakti rises, we go through these steps that I don't talk about because of the power of suggestion. So how do we know they're true? How do we know they actually happen? Because then with my students, I tell them, go find other students of mine. I have communities that you can talk in, obviously with inside the trainings, but also go and find people that have had these experiences outside of the training, outside with what I do. And you'll find they have had many of these experiences as well. So when you have had these experiences, you don't know what they are until it happens. And then you compare and contrast with other people and you find they've all had the experiences. This is how you get to a point of understanding of what has actually happened, what you've actually been through. So whilst it's all releasing and feeling good or terrible because you're pushed too far by a facilitator and cast into a dark night of soul that you can't get out of, you can get out of it, it just takes a lot of work. Or you play with fire and you get burnt, and then you have all these pains and aches in your body that can take years to get rid of. But, well, you know, that happens. You have to stop all energy work, really ground, really. Sometimes it's like a, you know, if you go in a fire and get burned, some people get scarred for life. It's the same thing. You have to be careful. Don't play with fire. There's no going back. But if it's not too severe, the burn, then you, in time and with work, you can recover. It's a long process. So there are dangers. And we have to understand that many of these practices, even if we look at perhaps you've heard of this word, CAP. The original Kundalini activation. Well, actually, no, CAP, the original CAP, Kundalini Awakening process was by Dr. Morris. Dr. Morris died, I think it was in the 80s. So it was a while ago. His name sort of got taken. And even the second CAP came from inner dance. These things have been seen in the Polynesian healing traditions, from Hawaii to the Philippines to Fiji, for centuries. You can see them in many, many traditions all around the world. So when you get into this work, if you're called to it, if you have an experience, don't automatically assume that it's a Kundalini awakening that you've had just because your body moved and you felt calm and bliss and at home in your body once again. Because that is most likely Prana. Just because you were super stressed and you blew out and that's suddenly a Kundalini awakening. Perhaps that was just a midlife crisis. Because, yes, midlife crisis happening to people in their 20s and 30s these days, thanks to, yes, doom scrolling and dopamine and stress and lots of things put on people today. Do your research, do your homework. Really understand the difference between the types of energies before you start proclaiming, I've had a Kundalini awakening and I know better than everybody else, and which you get on social media. It's funny on social media that you get these people that, I've had an awakening and I know better. And sometimes it is true, because you could say, well, you're saying exactly the same thing. Well, I know the difference between pranic healing and a Kundalini awakening. And occasionally I do call people out on it because they're misteaching something and they're dumbing down the value of Kundalini to something weak. Just as what I saw over the decades of what's happened to Reiki. Reiki used to be this powerful, powerful energy. And now it's, look on YouTube, it's been dumbed down to some visual ASMR thingy, which people find relaxing. That's not Reiki. With people waving flowers or feathers or crystals in front of the screen. It just shows that they have no idea what they're doing. But it is what it is, and things do get dumbed down. We say knowledge is lost by the deep state and secret cults hiding the information. But it's actually, most of it is lost due to pure and utter, unfortunately, I hate to say it, ignorance of people trying to prove they're special and better, and they're actually at a lower level than someone else, but perhaps they're a better marketer. And so the level gets dumbed down and dumbed down and dumbed down. That's exactly what has happened to Reiki over the decades. So hope this has given you a glance, a glimpse into understanding the differences between the energies. I can intellectualize the difference between Prana or Chi and Ojas or Jing, Shen, Wei, Kundalini, whatever it is. But you're never going to truly understand it until you experience it. And in part, this is part of the problem, because if I experience this huge energetic orgasm and I get into this massive bliss state in my head and someone tells me that's Kundalini, I'm going to accept it. If I release all these traumas in my body using Pranic Energy and someone tells me it's Kundalini, I'm probably going to believe it. Until you actually come across someone who takes you through and really rises up your Kundalini Shakti to meet consciousness. And then you're going to be like, huh, so I didn't know. And it's amazing today, the amount of people that contact me that have done Kundalini activation of many different brands. And they come to me privately and they say, okay, I'm now supposed to be this amazing facilitator. And yes, if I do this, and people might even move in front of me, but I can't feel anything. I don't truly understand this. You'd be amazed at how many people I get like that. That's fine. Because those people are recognizing, they're being honest with themselves. They want to learn. That's brilliant. They want to go further. They want to really understand and master. Hats off to them for owning up to it, rather than proclaiming they're more than they are. Because how many times, if you look up Kundalini activation on any of the social media channels, how many of them do you find calling it vital life force? Anyone who calls Kundalini life force doesn't know what they're talking about. Because life force, if you translate that, literally means chi or prana. Kundalini is a cosmic level of energy. Why? Because when it rises, it takes us more to higher states than just bliss. We have to learn the difference. Vital life force energy, universal life force energy. Ray, universal. Ki, chi, life force energy. Universal life force energy is Reiki. Change the word universal to vital. Same thing. Kundalini. Kundalini. Kundalini means fireball. And it's interesting, if you look, forget India for a minute, and you go to Egypt, because you will see the symbology of Kundalini and this energy repeated many times. We will see that bowl. We will see looks like a saw wave, sometimes represented as a snake, or both, along with the Jed pillar, the Ankh, and of course the Was staff. These all have meaning if only you know how to understand them. It's an ancient practice all over the world, but we have to learn. If you enjoyed learning this, subscribe to the channel, check out more videos. If you're interested in training with me, go to theawakenenergy.com. Perhaps leave a comment, click that hype button, that like button, share this with your friends so they too, or colleagues, so they too can learn and we can spread the right word rather than the ignorance of calling Kundalini life force energy. See you in another video.